Hi everybody, it's Dewey, Doug Walsh, and Jamar S. Russell, the Con and the Duck, and today we're doing the second letter of my Live Love program. Yet last time we did Learn, and we introduced ourselves and got to know each other, and today we integrate where I'll be talking about my experiences with mental health and the hospitals and stuff. And Jamar will be talking about his feelings about both when he was in and out of prison, both probably before and after both. And we're going to let him start with a poem. So, welcome, Jamar. How are you tonight?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm just Dougie. Just Yeah, I'm just my diagnosis is incurable psychotic bliss, so I just am happy as a little ducky all the time.
How about that? It's a beautiful day out here in Maryland, right where I'm at. Fall season, the trees are beautiful, and I'm glad because today I don't have problems with my allergies like I have in the
Good.
previous recording. So that's a blessing. I thought we were going with the con and the psycho. Now it's the con and the ducky.
I like I like duck better than psycho. I'm trying
Hey, I
to
like I like Duck better than too,
I'm
cause
trying
I
to avoid the stigma, you know.
yeah,
So
I don't see you as a psycho at all, man. But I do find it remarkable that you've come through what you've come through and we're able to do this today. So, you
well, I
want me to kick it
appreciate that.
off? Kick it off with the poem.
Yeah, you kick it off with your poem.
So this one is titled Madness, and I wrote this May 13th, 2016 during my incarceration. So this is also out of my book, Live from the Pen, the first one,
Okay.
Reformed. Um, Raggedy ass kids, raggedy ass men doing this bid. I wonder why. I wonder how. They're okay with this shit. Raggedy ass kids, broke down ass men, fucking up my mind, upsetting my vision. I hate my surroundings, stuck in prison. Dumbass kids who don't know how to act. Disrespectful motherfuckers. It's no doubt in my mind they'll either die or come back. Angry, arrogant ass nigga. Why the fuck should I care? Because there's no escaping this madness. I have to do years.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's so that brings up one aspect, which is, the dumbass kids and everything, but there must have also been maybe some old timers who had a lot of wisdom. And how did you, I mean, what was the balance between those, and were there like wise people, that you communicated with, besides just smart ass kids? And uh I mean, what was sort of like the mixture between smart ass kids and wise guys, or wise guys as opposed to wise men that you were in there?
So when you first of all, I was in the state system. I wasn't in the federal system, and I've heard dealing with different people, you have a different type of environment which you'll be around. Because I mean, in the DC area, if you get locked up in DC, a lot of times that's federal anywhere. There's other places that is just federal ground. So people in DC, whenever you catch those charges, or if somebody catches charges, it can potentially send you out to the feds. However, I was in Maryland, so you know something else would have happened for me to go there. So I'm dealing with just a lot of people on the state level, and what I've observed, you know, might have been people dealing with a lot of form of poverty, what I'm saying, addiction, low level crime, haven't been exposed to as much. So that's why at times it was very frustrating, and I say that. But of course, you had those that were wise, and age sometimes didn't have nothing to do with it, because you could have old fools as well. You
Right.
know, people that just don't get it, and it's just a matter of being able to put myself in that environment when a lot of times I didn't have any control of my environment. So when you hear that frustration, we're talking about 2016. I got sentenced in 2013, summer of 2013. I actually ended up where I was RCI after going through the process, intake and everything. Ended up there that fall of 2013. So we talking about those first 3 years in the state system. Now, mind you, I didn't already did almost 3 years in the county jail,
Right, right.
right? So now, when I'm writing this, I'm in the state system, but I'm probably most likely at this time. I think I'm either, I want to say I'm down in housing unit 2, which they considered gangland, but housing unit 2 or 3 could have been that. And the mentality of different people with different times, because I'm in a
Right.
medium security. Those that have been to a maximum security, they carry themselves serious because it can go down in a way that a lot of people wouldn't like. Those on the lower level of security, they're not really taking their time serious. Now, in the medium, you have a mixture of lifers, those with virtual life, and those with shorter amounts of time. So it's kind of, it can be very, very frustrating when you have either those old fools that then gave up on stuff, influenced the youngins the wrong way, or youngins that come in there on they dumb stuff because they don't know no better, don't know where they ass at, or so it
Just to get perspective, so in 2016, how old were you? So just to get an
2016.
idea of who
Yeah,
these young ass kids were,
yeah,
and
they had to be younger than me, huh? You know what I'm saying? So
I would suppose so, but not
2016,
necessarily.
I'm 31.
Oh, okay.
I'm 31.
And you've been in basically since 20,
At I
2010?
got locked up the end of uh well, I was detained and locked up officially the end of 2010.
Right.
So that's like in
That was in the
December.
county prison, right?
That was, well, they came and got me from Laurinburg, North Carolina.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was detained down there for a few weeks until they expedited me up to Maryland. So yeah, that's
Sorry,
probably a whole nother
I
story.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but so
Nah,
you're
it's
talking
fine.
about
It's fine.
the old fools and the young
Yeah,
smart asses.
exactly. So take so to give some context to it too, right? I remember a time, and this was kind of depressing to me. I might have been, let's say, like 17, anywhere between 17, 19, or whatever this age range was. But I remember, I want to say, yeah, 17. I remember I'm hustling and I'm dealing with older guys, right?
Right,
And I wasn't a person in which, I had a what they call a plug or somebody that I could really get stuff from or whatever. But
right.
I remember seeing these older guys either looking to me to make something work, and I just was like, if they looking towards me, then who do I look towards? You know, for any
Right.
guidance and stuff. And that was a little depressing moment at that time. And I
Could you
had
go into
to,
that a little bit more?
excuse me.
Why did you find it depressed? I'm not sure I understand the situation. So,
So not having, a real father figure or male around, I'm
right,
saying if the older guys are looking towards me,
right,
who do I look to?
right.
That's why I was saying it was a little depressing because it was just like, how do I figure out my way with this stuff? And I had to kind of eventually sit in that and accept it. Be like, okay, well, it's
You
not
gotta
going
be
to be in
your
this
own mentor.
environment. Yeah, it's not going to be in this environment, and you have to understand that you're a leader. You are a
Right,
person that's going to have that role, so accept that and figure it out. But at 17, that was too much. And so
right, right,
even doing stuff later on in the years, because I ain't get incarcerated till I was 25, and I kind of figured out that and accepted that by that time, I still hadn't felt that I really felt, reached the level of real maturity. So at 31, though, incarcerated, though, I definitely had felt like I had a better understanding of stuff. And then I'm surrounded by young fools and old fools.
right, right.
Yeah.
Did you think you were? Did you feel you were the only one who was sane or not mad or? Yeah, I mean, when I was going through my stuff, that often came across my mind. I'm not the crazy one; it's everybody else, and they just can't handle me. So that's why
Yeah.
they're going crazy and putting me in the hospital.
I definitely I did therapy throughout my incarceration. It started in Upper Marlboro, which was the county jail. Um, One, because first of all, in the county jail, I mean, you can talk to people and you can have camaraderie, but you can't speak to everybody about everything because people trying to get out of jail, they'll hop on your case and stuff like that.
Right,
And the state, it can be like that, but at the same time, it's a little bit different because once you convicted, you convicted. It's like, what can I tell you that these people ain't already got? Now, in my situation, I was definitely guilty. You know what I'm saying? That was not a thing. It's just that I didn't feel like I was guilty of what they said that I was. Like, I
right.
didn't feel like it was premeditated. Um, and after learning the law and understanding it, because I was under the influence, it wasn't. However, um, I think I shared this before after watching the Jack Nicholson movie,
Right,
One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
right,
Yeah, I'm like really analyzing it, and this is while I'm in the state system. I'm like, oh, that's me. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way that I could think that I'm in this institution and I'm not crazy myself. So that's part of um the beauty of the writing, whether it was the poetry or the therapeutic journaling, which I learned later that that was a term, but me just writing is I really got to analyze myself, and yeah, some of that stuff I was doing was insane.
right.
Like, using drugs, selling drugs, you know what I'm saying, carrying pistols, selling pistols, going
Right.
across state lines and doing all the other stuff that I'm just glad that I'm not a part of that lifestyle anymore. It's just like, why do
Well,
you think that you're not crazy?
this is actually one of the poems that I picked out for tonight, but maybe it's the appropriate time. It's called The Dawn of Internal Duality.
Hmm.
What does it mean, mentally ill? It means doctors think you need a pill or some other human you'll kill. Or so it seems watching Netflix, showing psychotics getting kicks, but it's public that's hard to fix. Thus, it's crucial to educate rather than just regurgitate the crap media tells you late, to explain outbreak of madness without hint of any sadness, ignoring all the signs of gladness, and soon the crazies will rule, so prepare yourself if you're a fool. While I admire you're still in school, since World War III at last is here, and to whom victory is clear, accomplished now without a tear.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, that's basically what I felt for the first 30 years that I was diagnosed. Is they the doctors really? I mean, and this is like the irony of it is the doctors turned me into the monster they feared I would become.
projecting. But there's a question that I have for you before we really get into that. What do you think it is that when a person like you or myself, we choose that form of medium to express ourselves. We're going through stuff, but we choose prose or rhyme and stuff like that. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I have all of these poems as you do, you know, a lot of them to make, and I'm like, what is it that made me feel comfortable or chose that? What is it for you?
Well, first off, I should state that on my 10th birthday, I decided I was going to be a writer.
Okay.
So that was always my life ambition. And then I got taken away from Dartmouth. I mean, I was writing, I was basically only writing like for school assignments through high school. But then I started writing poetry at Dartmouth, and I got taken away from Dartmouth. And I say one of the ironies of my mental illness is it gave me the opportunity to become the writer that I always wanted to become, because I didn't have to like deal with the rat race, and sort of like took me out of the economic need that most people have, and I was very
Okay.
fortunate that way, obviously. But basically, so with me, it was not only a calling and a mission, but it was also, as the system pressed in on me more and more, and I had to fight more and more for my own integrity of self, my own sovereignty, and my own sense of sanity, then writing actually became the only way I could like express for future what I feel for future generations, what I was going through, so that they could avoid it.
I think that's something that we definitely have in common because um, when I was taken away from everything else, it was like, now, which else you gonna do? You know?
Right.
And that was a choice that I made because even before my incarceration, I had bought the laptop, and I was in my mind, I was going to go ahead and type up all of these poems that I had, for years had collected because it was like, why not do something with it, and of course, I never got to finish that and lost all of my writings. That's why I had got into learning about the self-publishing and stuff like that because
Right, right.
was just like, I'll never lose my life's work again, you know? So, yeah, okay.
But I think I agree with you. I think we both do it basically to not only help ourselves through our challenges, but also to show other people not only the challenges we are going through, but to how to get through those challenges if they arise for them.
Definitely. So what's the next phase as far as with the
So, well, so okay, so we haven't talked about like feelings, and I meant a lot of people who have been in like situations like we have, whether it's mental hospitals or prisons, or or suppression of any kind, have a lot of trouble about talking about. But I'm very interested in like as you look back, but also while you were in, what were like the dominant emotions and feelings that you had, like not only on a day-to-day basis, but now looking back, and looking at the lessons I am sure you feel you learned in prison. What are the emotions and the feelings that you have now? And looking back, are there any particular ones that you really can isolate and say this was what kept me motivated, or this is what kept me like stuck?
well, I could say that lot of frustration. a lot of frustration. So, um, one, there was, of course, even while I was on the run, a lot of fear and anxiety. But I dealt with fear and anxiety on the street because it's like, will I get caught? Will something else happen? So it was the unknown of what I'd be facing. But then, after getting caught, it was just like, all right, there was a sense of relief because, that was over. However, while I was in there, though, um, it's not the best class of people that's
Right.
incarcerated anyway, right? Now, you have your own society, your own rules when it comes to that. And that's something that takes an adjustment to. You have to learn prison etiquette. And even though some people, they know what the rules are, don't necessarily abide by that. Um, So there's that. There's the confinement. There's the lack of freedom to do as I once was doing. There's the fact that I've lost so much. The lack of control. When it came to my finances, I've had a girlfriend in the past who not only stole from me, but also when I say I lost my writings, a lot of those were in that at her place, but also cooperated with the state to help me get convicted, So then there's a level of betrayal there. Then there were the people that I dealt with in the streets that I never heard from or who may have owed me money. And, when you have a person that facing as much time that I am, I guess they just feel like, shit, I ain't gonna see him, so I ain't gotta pay him. There's
Right.
that type of stuff. Or, and to go from where I've had thousands of dollars to not having anything and may had to borrow from people. And times like that, with time, you just kind of do a count of all of the people who owe all the people in which the amounts it was and all that other stuff. And it becomes a thing like, oh man, so there's betrayal, disappointment, there's hurt, um, lose people while you in there. So I've lost people, and there's pain from that. There's, how people react, and also how the dynamic of relationships have changed. So, um, it's kind of difficult to ask people to do things. It's not difficult to ask, but to expect things to get done when people have their lives to do.
Right.
And it's like what's important to you may not be important to the next person. And even though they love you and to do their best to help you, it's one of those things where it comes to a point where you just gotta realize like you in there. And then there comes the realization, the despair, the hopelessness sometimes, fighting to get through that. And I think that's one of the beauties of it is when you stripped of everything, you learn to rely on your higher power. So I definitely I I look towards stories like Joseph, stories like, what I'm saying, Moses, Paul, stuff like that. People that were courageous, David doing what they needed to, what I'm saying, on the spiritual level when God
Right.
seeing through things, even when things weren't as what they were. Job's story, to
Right.
have the hope that and faith that regardless of what I might be going through, that I'll, receive, twice my portion, to go through. So there's so many emotions to deal with, even with dealing with certain young ladies at times, through
Right.
pen pal on the phone. You have that euphoria of having some type of connection, and then to realize that it may be a one way thing. Like I know that you ain't gonna be there. I call you, you call when you want is nice for whatever, but then at the end of the day, like, man, you ain't getting out. So it thins out. So it's
Right.
accepting so much of this. And though that's a lot of what I had to deal with in there. And then the frustration and annoyance of all the noise, the people that I don't want to be around, the things I don't want to smell, the things I don't want to see, you know. or here, so and having people just treat you subhuman. You know what was a crazy thing, and even before that incarceration, because something that I hadn't shared was I was in a county jail, not PG County. I was in Howard County jail, and got released 3 months before all of this happened. And even in there, I was so frustrated for a couple of reasons. People in jail love watching the news. I hate watching the news.
Right.
I was seeing everything that was going on with Michael Vick. And to me, what that showed is people cared more about animals than they did that man's life. And I took it personally as, oh, you care more about a dog than a black man. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things in which I'm watching. And because he was trying to rebuild his life, I'm sure he didn't have any,
So
you know.
just to for those who might not be familiar, just quickly tell the Michael Vick story because
Okay, well, Michael Vick, star athlete coming out of Virginia Tech to make it to the Atlanta Falcons, probably changed the game as far as quarterbacks because of his ability to not only scramble, throw, stuff like that, and then because of something that happened with some dog fighting, which was something in which they did in his area. So just like
right,
any other area, you might have people that cockfight, or have people that like to shoot dice or whatever they do for gambling and stuff like that. Something happened in which he got caught up in some stuff, and he had to sit down and do some time for these dogs. And you know, I understand a lot of people love animals, they love dogs, but I never would place the life of an animal over a human being.
right, absolutely. So uh, so with all this frustration and probably anger and even rage building up, obviously poetry was like an outlet, but it did what would happen when you reach that boiling point where it just all seemed about to explode?
So 12 years is a long time. Even 32 months in the county jail was a long time, right? Um, what happened in the county jail is I ended up getting into some things. Fighting, got jumped, you know what I'm saying? Uh, Checked off the tier, which they call checking in, going into PC, not knowing what that was. So when I came off, I had to fight some more because generally, if you do something like that, they consider you a sucker or you prey. So went through a whole lot and I learned a lot. So in that process of learning and then establishing myself for who I was, because I hadn't done any time beyond 90 days before that. So there was jail politics and stuff that goes on that I really didn't know. And so by the time I got to the state, I knew what was what. I knew after certain times where it comes to in the count. I mean, you gotta fight or you gotta stand up for yourself or somebody's gonna consider you weak and pray. And then if
Right,
that's then it'll be a continuous thing. And sometimes you gotta check stuff. You know what I'm saying? Gotta use your mind sometimes when it's not worth it. But I know that there was definitely those times where I'd have been angry and frustrated and I'm just like, hey man, come see me. You know. And
right,
sometimes people weren't about doing that, because I'm not a small guy, maybe because I'm male minded and be chilling. Sometimes people would take that out, but and definitely don't like to use violence. But when it came to that, a lot of times what I discovered is I could write my solution. I'll be writing out my frustration and relieve myself and then be able to come to a solution. So
right,
I had to learn not only what to involve myself in, what not to involve myself in, and a lot of times just fall back and just let things play out, because you'll have people that'll crash out, stuff like that. Me being frustrated, it's temporary, you know.
right.
And then the fact that what put me in there was me allowing things to come to a head and explode. I could not go in that route if I wanted my freedom, if I wanted to
Right.
re-enter society and remain free. So,
Um, I, I, I guess. Well, actually, I think that. Thanks for that answer. I'm just one thing that just came up for me was how did you feel when the jury said guilty or whatever the jury said, and basically you knew you were going to go away for a long time. I mean, what was that reverse O.J. Simpson moment for you?
it was crushing. It was crushing because first degree murder carries life. So, I was potentially facing a life sentence plus whatever the gun charges and stuff was, and it was just like I felt, and this goes back to my trial. First of all, I had a mistrial first time, but a mistrial, as I think I've stated in previous, doesn't mean that because the state made a mistake that they're penalized. No, I
Right,
had a mistrial, and then they got a chance not only to you know, go through everything again, but then they were able to use more information to come
right,
back to you. So it was just like, hold on, how is it that you broke the rules and get rewarded?
right,
That was what was real crazy about the perspective and how I watched that play out. And so we had momentum, and I felt like things were going good. My attorney did a great job, and his co-counsel, and it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then all of a sudden, because of scheduling, right? They said no, we can't do it Thursday and Friday. We got to come back on Monday. To
right,
me, that was like what? First of all, you got this jury out here not making no money. What I'm
right,
saying? They're away from work. They're here. They got to listen to a bunch of stuff. Like when it comes to forensic and stuff like that, it's very complicated and not
right,
something in which is entertaining or clear. It's nothing that's going. So I'm watching people that maybe going to sleep and stuff like that. And so to drag things out and then bring it back on a Monday when a person definitely is not trying to be at, generally
right,
just
right,
at their best, I'm like, what are you doing to me? And before we went into the trial, my attorney said that he just scrapped the character witnesses, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, then who do I have to speak up for me?"
right.
So um, it
And what was
just
that
was,
all about?
man, look, I didn't have enough money to pay for attorney. I had spent 3,500 just in the initial appearance for an attorney that I couldn't afford. It was asking 35,000. Mind you, before I got incarcerated, I had only had about a little, maybe somewhere around 27,000, which on the run, things got messed up. The
Right,
woman that I told you I dealt with, I gave her seven while I was on the run, like I know this stuff is gonna mess up things and how you going, but not knowing that everything that was
right,
going on with me was gonna mess up. Um, there was money that was in some accounts that I had asked my mother, look, close all these accounts out because there's certain things that's being automatic debited that I didn't want to continue to take from, but she was saying that there was a whole lot of stuff that came with me giving her power of attorney to actually close it. So she's just withdrawing money, and that's what I mean about when things not yours, people not going to take care of it like it's
right.
theirs. And so I didn't have the funds to be able to fight this situation. Um, so that whole thing, um, and I'm trying to remember the original question
So,
now.
so we're talking about scrapping the character witnesses.
Yeah, so and I had to deal with a not a court appointed lawyer, but somebody still that the state paid.
Right,
They're not getting, what they should be getting for a murder trial. He probably wasn't as invested. He ain't care because the fact of the matter is, even when we went up for the post conviction, and it was one of those things where you clearly didn't investigate to see if I was intoxicated to even use this as a defense, to
Right.
me just showed like, all right, whatever, man. You know.
Right.
So that's how I feel. It's not that the guy was a bad attorney, and because he wasn't a bad attorney and carried so much weight in the county because he, you know what I'm saying, definitely had a reputation. Even my attorneys in post conviction wasn't really trying to attack him for why he didn't investigate my
Right.
intoxication. You know, because these people have relationships, and nobody is really trying to jeopardize those relationships just for the fact of a drug dealing murderer. Like, why?
Right. 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 So yeah, so on the flip side of that, how did you feel when you found out after 12 years you were going to be freed?
Well, I'll say even before that, Dale, because I told you that first degree carries life,
Right.
and it could have been plus my sentencing. Now I was crushed at, you know, once they found me. I remember coming back, and my man JJ, he always said, "We say, man, you came back." And I asked you something to do. You just went to cell like it wasn't supposed to go this way. So when that cell broke down, but when I went to sentencing, and the judge said life all suspended but 50 years, I was relieved. I was so like, okay, I got a shot. Because now it's not life plus, it's
Right.
life all suspended but 50 years. And from there, because I retained my rights, I said, okay, let me work on this. Let me break this number down. Let me do everything that I need to do to make sure I'm able to get up out of here. So that was a relief. So further on down, when that happened, years later, after all that work I put on, man, once I went to there and that lady told me that, man, I was floating. It was like
I'm
as if my
sure.
feet ain't even touched the ground coming back to the housing unit. It was just like, felt so blessed, man. It was
So
just,
how long was it between you finding out that you were being released and you actually being released?
I don't even know.
Well,
It didn't even matter after
was it
that.
pretty quick or what was
Yeah, I think she might have told me that it might have been a week, 2 weeks, whatever, however
right?
long. I don't know. And it
Okay.
might have been shorter, might have been it didn't
I'm
even
sure
matter.
you weren't walking on the earth the whole time, right?
Listen, it's like this. This how this goes, right? If a person just had 50 years, they would have to wait to see parole half of their time in Maryland State. So that
Right.
means after 25 years. The fact that I had a life sentence suspended, lifers go up every 15 years. With my good time, I was able to see parole a little bit before 10 years, which
Okay.
was, to me, I was just like, I'm saying y'all what? And even though I got denied, they said come and see us in 5 years. It was a great interview, I think, a parole hearing. And I'm just like, 5 years, bet. I had been working on my modification, which I
Right.
did have the sentence modified to life all suspended but 49 years, which restarted my so different things along the way gave me hope. And I just worked on that hope and faith and wrote my freedom. Like I said, I just kept on writing letters, writing these books, writing
So
whoever I needed.
did you when you first entered jail? Did you Was that when you started writing, or when in the process of your incarceration did you actually like find poetry and start writing? And actually, I'm also interested in your children's books. I think that's like a
Yeah.
fascinating little side story. Maybe not even a side story.
Yeah, so I remember I don't know what the conversation was, but I remember talking to my man Patrick Brown. It was another guy because you have a lot of talented individuals in prison, right? Um, and at that time I'm in the county jail, and I remember I had to like write on the back of request slips, and request slips are what you use whether you need to see medical, or you need to talk to
Right.
somebody, or you needed anything in there, that's what you. So I was writing on the back of it, and um, I had started then, like, because I considered myself, and I thought that I would. So it was just like, let me get some feedback, and started writing. Some things was alright, some things weren't. You know what I'm saying? But it was just, I'm gonna write anyway. And two, it's like this becomes something that's good, and
Right.
I'm trying to. Matter of fact, let me see if I
Well,
can
I'd
find.
love to hear something else if you're ready.
Yeah, I was gonna find one of those first poems for you. It's in one of my books, but I have it on my phone. I just have to look and find uh, exactly where it is. All right, so this was one of my first poems that I wrote while incarcerated. It's entitled "My Dream." I wake up from my dreams, wishing they were reality. Waking up to my reality, wishing it was a dream. The places our actions take us, in disbelief things are what they seem. The forced changes and adjustments, acceptance of the being. Then the wonder of the purpose of the journey and what it all really means. I dream of an alternate reality, where this was just a dream. I go back to what really matters to me, and everything's serene. Nothing I've done has caused a drastic change, and the things that were remain the same, only to slightly shift as time does, and I can live my dreams.
Very nice. Yeah, I like the play between reality and dream, and also the alternate. You also bring in the alternate reality, which is beyond both the dream and reality you're talking about at the beginning. In terms as I see it, it's sort of like the dream and the reality at the beginning is your life in prison, and the
Hmm.
alternate reality you're talking about is life after prison.
Exactly. So that was one of those poems early on that I don't even have a date for, because a lot of the times I date my poems. That's what I start
Right.
doing later on to really. And every once in a while, it may be something that I had, and I'm just like, damn, when I write this. But most of I have dates for my poems.
I do too. I actually have my own calendar, Jamar. So I for a long time I was like I had like double dates. I had like the Gregorian calendar date and then my date, and so but yeah, so I was thinking this is that you said this was an early this isn't an early poem, but it's my first due poem. And it's in this book, Entering New Era of Dew, which you can get at Amazon. And say it's when I actually became my reality entered my Dew personality, which was on May 15th, 2018. So basically, I'm on a 10-year Dew mission till 2028 to prove myself worthy to marry the Empress. But that's a whole
Okay.
another story. But this is like my first due poem. It goes, and it's a reflection on my my 45th high school reunion. I never attended high school reunions because I was always ashamed of myself because I considered myself a mental case, and all these people were very successful. There was one lady who painted the official portrait of Joy of Ruth Bader, that Supreme Court lady.
Mm-hmm.
Ru-
RBG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this was one of my classmates, and she painted the official portrait that went in the Supreme Court hall
Wow.
of hers. So that just gives you an idea, like some of the people I didn't want to show my face among, but at the 45th reunion, I did, and it goes like this. Reflection on Phillips Exeter reunion. Seeing classmates after 45 years brought out in me deepest fears, afraid of their taunts and jeers if I told them my psychotic tears. But they were truly empathetic dears as their panel was all ears, who ended my speech with cheers, even though they had no beers. So that happiness my heart nears, considering the saga my tale, which makes all actually love Dale, who is the ultimate bachelor male, despite fact I crave beautiful female with whom to drink ginger ale, not wanting my sobriety to fail, as I follow my solitary trail, attempting to locate the Holy Grail, and avoid incarceration and psychiatric jail.
Yeah, definitely. When the last time you been in DC?
DC? It was a long time ago. It was when last time I was in DC was when my aunt died about probably I don't even know how long ago it was at this point. I lose track of time, but it was at least like 3 years.
Okay, I
I
asked that right because like one of the things that I knew even before going in, they had this spot called Busboys and Poets. Since I had been in, they've had a lot more branches of it, or what do
Right.
you call it? Yeah. Anyhow, locations, and that was one of the things when I went. Like, not only was this like I'm gonna hit these open mics, but make sure that I hit those. And I was just
Right.
like, man, that would be one of those things, man. You gotta hit an open mic, man. You gotta bless the people, with your work.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we're so um let's I'm just thinking, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up about for this session? I mean, anything that maybe you're thinking about that I didn't ask you about or anything or
Well, let's reflect again on what this section is about, right? And you said dealing with like the feelings and emotions, right?
right?
So there's always the ups and downs, and one of the things that I'm gonna tell you that happens, I was blessed to have family support, right? Especially my mother's. I'm my mother's only. Um, but for 3 years in the county jail, I couldn't see my daughter because they said you had to be sentenced, and that was a rule that they came up with. Maybe it changed, maybe not. Who knows? So there was that time of not having connection with her because I used to have her a lot with me as she was a baby. So there's that. The lack of connection, because in the county jail too, it's not like a visiting room in the state where you could at least touch your people, and I'm not sure if that has changed because of course COVID did something and coming back
Right.
and all of the security. But uh, the people that I lost, that type of hurt, um, just the things that I would go through just on that level of family, those I love, those I lost. And then there would be that period of might be happy to see your folks, then the crash of those feelings knowing that when you part, going back to a cell or whatever. So it's like that high and the low. Um, so much more that comes along with it. And I'll share a poem titled Another Reminder that talks about the visits, or my feelings about visits. Let me see where it is. All right, so another reminder. Strip, show your hands, open your mouth, lift, separate, turn around, show your feet, squat, cough, bend, spread. All this after a visit. It's ridiculous. But what's even more crazy is I go through it with no feelings. I'm numb to the experience. A man watching me butt naked. The same routine with no shame. Because it is what it is. I just face it. That part has left. A fan violated. I've been stripped of pride. I'm just vacant. Another reminder to get the fuck out. Every day in here is a reminder to get the fuck out. Flush while I piss. Flush while I shit. Prison etiquette. Yeah, it's proper. But if you're in bed, it's another reminder to get free. Back to society where you don't share a bathroom, where you also eat and sleep, eating a meal with just a spoon, sharing showers with shoes on your feet. Everything's shared, like the air that's breathed. So if someone gets sick, it'll soon spread. I wish it was like that with good shit. Very few are well read. I wish the release of one would make it easier for others, but it's the opposite. One's mistake causes crackdown in higher numbers. It's like they giving up on me, correcting, in this correctional facility, in this correctional system. I search for how to prove that I've used their system to correct me, so they'll let me free. So, after every visit or family day, they strip search you. So to go from a high of being embraced and loving, spending time with your family, to being, treated like that,
Brutalized.
it's just like, now it's this shit. Now it's
Right.
back to the compound. Now it's back to everything else. Because even it can be frustrating in those times, visits. Oh, you got up there, but your people can't come in because they got a wire in their bra. You know what I'm saying? Or
Right.
they got to go somewhere else to get something else because they forgot to wear certain clothes, or they get turned away, or the timing, or something else. All these rules, and or whatever else may happen is just
Right.
frustrating, and it's a lot, and it takes its toll. And I can understand for some of those people that you know don't want visits while they in there. Don't want people to see them like that, or don't want their people to have to go through all that, because it's like an hour and some change of a trip that I just be like, sometimes I wish my mother didn't take those trips, because it's
Right.
like, if I didn't know what was going to happen, then I would have to get called. Then I might have to get ready. And if I'm in the yard, I got to take a shower, all this other stuff. Keep them waiting, which cuts in on the visit. I remember one of the times my daughter was just like, what took you so long? And I was coming from a housing unit that was way on the other side of the compound.
Right.
And after that is one of the reasons why, worked on getting moved to the building that was closer to that.
Right.
So it's a lot of things that take toll. Because before I got released, my daughter didn't want to come up there to see me anymore, and
And
it
how
was
old is
hurtful.
she?
She's 16 now, and at the time, what, I don't know, 13, 12, whatever
Right.
age
Right.
she was at that time. Because I've been out for 2 years, 2 years and some change. So you know, depending on the time and where she made that decision. And it's a lot for anybody to have to go through
Right.
that process repeatedly. And, what emotional toll it took on her, put on her, is just like, I can't imagine. But, you know,
Right. And I'm sure you were very grateful every time she showed up too.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, I know if this is like whether we should like go into this now or save it for later. And thank you for your revelation about your feelings, and because yeah, I used to get very frustrated in mental hospitals, and
Yeah,
mental hospitals, I used to say at least with prison you have like a definite sentence, but with a mental hospital, it can't, you never know when you're going to get out.
yeah,
And I was hospitalized 15 times, and ultimately, I feel that 12 of them, I was staring down the double-barreled shotgun of permanent institutionalization, and
mm,
just like putting me away forever and just shut the fuck up, Dale, and sit in your own stew. And but I say 15 admittances, 15 discharges. They could never prove me wrong. So that's
Yeah.
even though it sometimes took 6 weeks, it was my first hospitalization was 13, but after that, like 6 weeks was like sort of the longest. But I just I just say, this is what reinforces my feeling that all mental illness, if people just like gave, the diagnoses a chance to explain them, a full chance to explain themselves,
Hmm.
then half the mental illness would be solved. But it's just like there's such like a rush. I mean, with you, I don't know if there was a rush to judgment, but there was. There's a process of time, and it takes over. So I don't know, but it's just like what I was saying is the difference between a mental hospital and a prison is only the time lapse, and you don't know when you're getting out. And if
But for
you,
those that got life, they don't know.
right,
You
right,
know, yeah. So it is definitely or large numbers. So there's that, but that's interesting, and that we'll definitely have to explore that more. Dale, especially the fact that you were able to make sure that you got out. Those 15 times have been blessed. The difference between those 12 times versus those last, I guess, maybe the other 3 times that you didn't feel like you were looking down the barrel
right.
of a double.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, the last 6 times I admitted myself.
Oh,
First
okay.
9 times the doctor admitted me.
Okay.
Last 6 times I knew I was psychotic, so I put myself in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
So,
that shows
right, so, so
self-awareness as well.
basically, the last 3 times I was secure because I knew I was sane,
Yeah.
even if I was like having an episode. But,
Yeah.
and, time proves that episodes always pass, and that's why I got out every time.
Yeah. So that's man. Yeah. But institutions, man. And then I guess for me also transitioning is fighting the institutionalization. You know,
Right, right,
having to be there for so long, then transition back into society and realizing too that like shit, it didn't matter whether I was in or out, I'ma still be around some crazy people. You know what I'm
right.
saying? And it's like I know I was one of the guys that hosted one of the shows said, man, you gotta be aware of your language. I say crazy people or say retarded. It's like people don't like those terms. I say, man, when I wrote this stuff, people weren't that sensitive or that,
Right.
as so I try to think about that. It's like
And,
also understanding like, well, if you see what I see or you in the environments
right.
I see, I wonder what you would call these people.
Uh,
you know.
and the other thing is Fred Jew guy. I'm the one who's been diagnosed as absolutely psychotic. So if I
Yeah,
call someone crazy, I know what I'm talking about.
yeah. How about that? How about that? Yeah, they better take your word for it, huh? Or take my word for it, cause
I mean, like people on campus always used to say to me, "You're the sanest person I know, Dale." And I'd say two things. First, I'd say you must have known some pretty crazy people then, and secondly, I'd say see me without my medication.
man. So look, I'm gonna tell you before we go, man. Something just made me think about it. Like being that I was in that institution, I was sometimes dealing with people, man. I would have to out crazy them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Just to get things, get them to either chill or whatever, because that's what people did. They call it bitten. Sometimes people will be playing little mind games with you, or sometimes people generally be kind of a different way. So one of these guys is named Benny Marshall, right? And he a lifer. Hopefully, he'll see freedom again. But one of them times with him, I just play more crazy with him. So he'd just be like, man, let me get away from you. Like, because a lot of other people wouldn't be able to deal with him. It'd be like, man. So I
Right.
do that whether it was him or my man Farmer. It's just it becomes wild on a different level too when you got to deal
Right.
with the psychological and the spiritual aspect of being in those places.
Absolutely, and it's and I definitely understand what you're saying about out crazy people, but people never argued with my crazy. I mean, I was admitted to Inglewood Hospital. I always went to Hackensack, but Hackensack didn't have a place for me, so I had to go to Inglewood, and I got to Inglewood, and immediately they put me in the quiet room with a mattress and a window to look out and a door, and they kept me in the quiet room for like 4 hours. And at one point, a nurse stuck her head in, and I said, "What?" I just yelled at her at the top of my voice and said, "What the hell are you keeping me in here for?" I'm perfectly sane. Anyway, long story short, the doctor finally shows up. Uh, after about 5 hours, because it's not my regular doctor. They have like the hospital doctor to see me, and so I say, when he opens the door, he says, "I'm Dr. Booth," or whatever his name was. And I say, "Are we Dale to Dale?" And he says, "All tongues on deck, yes." So, so that was like sort of like, oh, the point is that there was a guy on the unit who spent his whole bed under his bed, the whole night under his bed, because he was convinced I was going to get out of the quiet room and murder everybody.
And he was the only one.
Well, he was the only one who admitted
Oh man, but
it.
shit. So I know you got your appointment, man. So we gotta close this out, man. You gonna close this out with a
Well,
poem, man?
I gave it a half hour. I gave it a half hour break. So
Okay.
we, uh, but yeah, that's at 7 o'clock. So, but I think that's a good. So, shall we close with the poem, or
Sure.
do
Go
you want me
ahead.
to close with the poem, or you want
Yes,
to close
sir.
with the which you want, Jamar?
Go ahead. You know if you want to do one, if you want us both to do one, it don't matter.
Actually, I had this is another Dale, which is the forum that I told you about. That I did last week about Dale reviewing what actually happened. With two sets of 9 rhymes apiece. So this is called "Once I Came to Hackensack." I lived in Dr. B's program to meet Carolina Ribs and Bam. Recalls Dale's first true love, Pam, as sweet as a candied yam, also attractive as night nurse Sam, who guided me through hospital jam when therapy seemed a vicious scam, while shrink did my reality slam, despite my being a blissful clam. Even though I couldn't smoke pot, for every fortnight I received shots. A major tranquilizer, which was not substance on street that was hot. For few of truly schizophrenia caught, who without medication suffer brain rot, but tumble into psychotic slot. So finally my diagnosis I bought as chemical imbalance demons I fought.
That's all right, man. That's all right. That's all right. So what you want to do? You want to close on that, or you want me to give you one?
You call it Jumar.
All right, cool. Um, I have this one. So one of my pen pals, she was doing something, I guess, looking into criminal justice systems with the youth. I think she dealt with some psychology. I can't remember for sure, but she was in Australia. And I wrote this thinking about it because I was asking little questions and stuff. So it was, I asked my friend. I asked my friend for a diagnosis because I often feel I'm going crazy. I often feel I've gone insane. This madness, this tension around my brain. I've asked my friend that studies psychology for analysis because I may be a patient. I may need to be patient. Clinically, there's chaos in my mind being patient. Trying to escape this asylum, trying not to create a problem, trying to locate the problem. I've asked my friend if she can evaluate my problems. Maybe with some help I can solve them. Maybe with some instruction I can solve them. Maybe with enough liquid I can dissolve my problem in that solvent. I sit behind gates, the state's problem, reaching out to a friend, because when I look about, I see men in a troubled state. That's a problem. They can't think. They smoke K to escape their problems. They drink. I drink. Some stink of their problems. Drugs, thugs, J, Crips, Bloods, Murder Inc. So many stuck in the muck. I hope my friend doesn't diagnose me fucked because I'm the problem. Maybe I should just let my friend be a friend, not ask favors of her profession, unload too much with my confessions, or burden so much with my stressing. I figure it's just prison would be the prognosis, and payment to my friend would be a psychotic devotion.
Beautiful, and you can close it by saying, "And I think I'll simply be a duck."
You can